I'm a guy that's 25. Lego Star Wars is my life. I like Ryan Johnson. I'm Rich Boy J. Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here, back again with another video, and this is going to be yet another episode of the LEGO Star Wars MOC Showcase. This is a collection of some of the most awesome builds that I found on the internet, so if you love any of them, please go ahead and support the builders by clicking the links in the description, giving them a like, a follow, all that good stuff. They certainly deserve it. First up, we have a build by the Brick Fanatic 6722. It's titled 253rd Legion Mission 1.3. This is another one of those story-driven builds. I imagine it's in Factions or another LEGO Star Wars RPG, and this build basically represents looks like some sort of special snowtrooper variant, and he's right outside. It looks like either some ancient building or maybe the ruins of a building, but I think there are a lot of really awesome techniques going on here. The first thing that my eyes are drawn to with this build is just the architecture in the actual building, right? You can see kind of hidden behind the archway, it looks like there's a stone statue of some sort of old figure, gives this building a historical type of appearance. But one of the nice things he did with this build is he surrounded the architecture by some rock work, which is nice. I mean, it really is just a contrast of light gray and dark gray, but I think this was a very smart choice as opposed to just having the backdrop of this building be the architecture of the building. Having it being built into the rock work, I think goes a long way, and just adding that much more detail to it. What is rock work without the icing on top of the cake, so to speak, with the snow on top of it? This is always an excellent accent to add to rock work. Honestly, I mean, if you're able to, I think adding snow to your rock work is just a fantastic way to maybe not make it look just so bland. You know, dark gray rock work can look interesting. You know, there's plenty of ways to make it look awesome in itself, but there's just something about the contrast of the white up top that I think goes a long way in making the MOC look that much more interesting and that much more appealing. So I give him some credit there. He's using a combination of normal slopes and curved slopes in rock work, but one nice thing that he does do is he, at least in my opinion, tries to differentiate between the styling in the snow and the styling in the rock work. You can see that there are no simple slopes used in the snow. It's just all curved slopes and tiles, which I think is good. I do like for there to be some distinction between the styling in the snow and the styling in the rock work. I think that is some next level building right there. The architecture in itself does look very interesting. I love the usage of these cheese slopes basically complementing each other to create a small crack in the build. Two things down below that really catch my eye on this build are, first, the luggage and cargo over to the right side. I think those look great. This is, from what I can remember, one of the first times I've seen someone use that Luke backpack tile from the old Dagobah set just as some luggage in a Star Wars build, which actually works out pretty well. That's a great use for that piece. And the other thing that really sticks out to me about this build has to be the ground. He has a close-up picture of it here, and this is just incredible. You actually can see that it's illuminated from the ground, and the way that he has these trans red pieces carefully placed into the cracks of the ground really take this build to the next level. He so easily could have just made this a dark gray ground and have just been done with it. Like, a lot of people wouldn't have complained if that were the case, but having what I would assume is, I don't know, lava kind of flowing through cracks in the ground here looks amazing. That is incredible. I honestly would love to try to incorporate something like this in my Starkiller build, specifically towards the end area of the build, you know, where the planet itself is exploding. This is just such a wonderful technique. I love the way that he got these pieces to sit in here. The fact that it's illuminated goes even further, but these cracks just look so awesome. You did a wonderful job on this build, man. The next build we're going to look at is titled Interim Maintenance by JastaBrick, and this isn't, you know, the biggest build by any means, but this is one of the ones that I looked at and I was like, oh, I have to review that one on the MOC Showcase immediately, because the way that he achieves, I don't know if you want to call it like a dome shape or a dish shape on the edges of this platform, is just so amazing. I love this build so much. This is obviously one of those platforms that you'd see on Camino. We have a little clone trooper. It looks like he's trying to clean up some hermit crabs that have found their way on the platform, which is a nice bit of humor to add to the build. I love it when builders incorporate nice, subtle, but clever things like that. Like, that's a very nice use for those new helmet crab pieces that came in the CMF series. But yeah, just the way these shapes flow together on the edges here are insane. Like, this is just so visually appealing to look at. There's not much I can say in terms of the technique. Like, you can see he's basically just alternating a rectangle and triangular pattern in order to get this shape, and it accomplishes it very well. Like, it's obviously very recognizable as one of those Camino platforms, and it also just achieves that dome shape very well. I think a lot of people might kind of shy away from building Camino because of these complex structures, but you see builders like this achieve it seamlessly, pun intended, right? Like, it is seamlessly, and you know, he just achieves it so flawlessly, and the build itself, the shapes themselves look pretty seamless with how well they connect together. Like, this is just such a clean looking build, and another reason I love to show off these smaller scale builds. Once again, guys, you don't need, you know, 5-6 folding tables to make an impressive build. Even something small like this can just captivate an audience, right? A person would look at this and be like, how the heck did he achieve those shapes? And if anything, that's one of the biggest things I love to stress here in this series, showing that no matter what space you have, if you just, you know, have some ingenuity in your building techniques, you can really come up with something special. The final thing I did want to mention is I love the little, I don't know if you might call it like a satellite or antenna build over towards the back of the MOC. He has the tread pieces in light bluish gray, which look pretty nice, and it's just a nice solid looking build back there. But overall, this is such an aesthetically pleasing build, especially for a Lego builder, when someone can achieve these shapes and have them all flow together so seamlessly to make, you know, this freaking complex looking dome shape. That is just awesome. Martin. What can I say? You've done it again, man. The final build we're going to look at today is by Martin Latta. He is an excellent builder. I've had the pleasure of having quite a few conversations with him. Awesome guy all around. And man, can he whip up some builds. This is his recent Venator UCS styled MOC, and what can I say about this? This thing is straight up eye candy. This is Lego eye candy. He knocked this one out of the park. He did have an original version of this. This is, I guess, an update in some way, or honestly, it's a complete overhaul. This one really blows this old one out of the water. I've held off on, you know, designing my own Venator or buying the instructions of someone else's, just because I don't think I ever quite found one that I really wanted to have in my collection. But this one might change that. I know Martin sells a lot of his instructions. If he has the instructions to this one, I'll definitely put those in the description for you guys. But wow. Okay, let's jump right into the build. So first things first, there is just such a nice combination of snot techniques in this thing all around. I'll highlight some of the ones I really appreciate. This one really stuck out to me. I don't know why, but the fact that there's this little split between these two plates with the reverse slopes and normal slopes here, I don't know, that just really stuck out very nicely to me. I thought that looked cool. I think he's done an awesome job in integrating a brick built, what is this, the open circle fleet, I think they called it. But yeah, just building this out of bricks is awesome. This is probably the best brick built solution I found to this. A lot of people will try to brick build it, maybe not achieve it so well, or just use a sticker. I like that he brick built it. I think that is just very creative and also allows for other people to build this if he does ever put out the instructions to it. But this is such a great solution to this design. There is some pretty wild snot work going on here. He's using the arches with like the 1x4 dark red curved slopes sandwiched in there between them. There's some interesting usages of cheese slopes in here as well. This is just a great way to come up with he really just did a great job at brick building that logo. Another awesome snot usage in this MOC is over towards the top bridge section. You can see that there's this main section that kind of pokes out of the top of the build, and this is also just so nice. Because he built this snot, it looks so smooth. He's even using the mailbox piece in there. You'll notice all through this build there is just some great parts usage to get some of those greebly bits that you'd expect in various areas on the Venator. Speaking of greebly bits, let's talk about that. There is just so many different parts used even in just this one section alone for the greebling in this build. And I think one of the nice things he achieved with this is that the greebling fits the contour of these angles of the ships very well. I think that could have been a design challenge, you know, trying to fit these greebling pieces into this triangular shape here, but he did a very good job at it. You can see on the side that he has the hangar door. I honestly probably would have preferred if he made the hangar opened up, or, you know, with the trans blue shield in there somewhere. This isn't a huge issue. You know, this is something you could easily swap out if you wanted. But I think that that trans blue popping out on the side of the Venator is probably more iconic to its look. So I would have preferred that. But either way, even having the shield doors closed here does look pretty cool, and maybe even gives this thing its own unique look by way of like the Venator aesthetic. He has 4 turbo lasers on the sides of the Venator, as you would expect, and one nice thing that really pleases my eye at least is the usage of these wedge plates here and the subtle greebling even below it. You can see there's like the light gray wedge plates, and then kind of down below in the hull of the ship you can see some dark gray pieces. I can see some grill towels on their sides and various other pieces on their sides, just to give some subtle greebling in there. You know, not too much, nothing too crazy, but it just adds a complete another level of detail to the build. Another incredible thing worth mentioning on this build is the front section. We all know that these the dark red stripe on the front of the Venator are 2 doors that open up to reveal a hangar, and guess what? This guy integrated an actual hangar into the build of the ship. Not only is this impressive because he somehow achieved the structure of the Venator for a Lego build and somehow has this giant hangar running through the center of it, but it also just looks so incredible. I love the fact that he integrated this into the build. Oh my god. The fact that it's illuminated on the inside is even more of a plus. He has some miniature gunships and even a couple of Jedi interceptors parked in the hangar, and I think this is what really set me off on this build. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. I think I want to build that, and seeing this integrated into the build just made me go, okay, I for sure gotta build this thing. This is just so freaking awesome. Another subtle thing you'll notice in these dark red stripes is he actually threw in some brown pieces for some nice discoloration / weathering, however you want to think about it, and I think that's good. I think that dark red and brown pieces blend very well together when you're using the brown as a weathering for the Venator. You know, the Venators aren't super dirty ships, or you know, the Venators aren't really known as super dirty ships or anything, but even subtle weathering like this I think can go a long way. The next photo presents the side profile of the ship, and I think this is where the ship really shines. The Venator has a very interesting profile, and I think this is where the ship really shines. The Venator itself has a pretty unique profile. I mean, we've seen, you know, Lego with the Lego set Venator really mess this up. I love the way the top and bottom hulls connect to show the greebling popping out of the side. There are no gaps worth of note. You know, this is a very clean, slick build. He clearly worked really hard to make everything as seamless as possible, and the profile of the ship just looks awesome. And that's really one of the things that I think you just have to nail when it comes to these big ships like this. Like, yes, you can put in a lot of detail. Yes, you can try to employ some interesting building techniques to get the things you want, but at the end of the day, people are going to stand back and look at this thing, and they're going to ask themselves, does this look like what I remember? Does this look correct? Does it look right? And if you don't have the profile of the ship down, I think that can really detract from what otherwise would be a pretty awesome build. And Martin has a build here that, you know, looks great up close. There's so many techniques that you could talk about for days, but even if you take a step back, the profile of it is just excellent on this build. Another thing I really like that he nailed with this ship are the edges of the build. You can see that where the edges of the hulls are, he's kind of layered up some tiles on there, and those flow together very well. I kind of like how the 2x3 wedge plates are used in there to give them a seamless edge, and this makes its way from the very front of the ship to the very back of the ship. So it's just a very nice design, and I've been actually just really interested in seeing how those work, how those connect to the ship. And finally, we have the back of the Venator. The Venators are pretty well known for the plethora of engines on the back of them, all of them protruding at various distances, and this is just so clean. I love that on the bigger engines he's using, it looks like either 1x3 or 1x4 tiles, and they're slightly angled too, so you get kind of that conical shape around the engines. Those all look very good. But then he has the smaller engines as well, and even the very small ones represented by those barrels back there. I love how just, once again, smooth and seamless the ship is. Like, look at how the hull plates connect, and the spaces that fill the gaps between them. Those dark gray sections between them just connect so well to it. There aren't any huge gaps. Like, all the angles here work so well together. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. The more and more I look at this ship, the more I just want one in my collection. And I don't even want one. I want a few of these. I want to stage my own mini battle of Coruscant on a table with a few of these, and maybe put together an invisible hand or something. Like, this is just one of those builds that you see and it just gets your imagination going. Like, yeah, this is great, but how can you immerse yourself in it more? You can have those miniature gunships flying out of the main hangar. You can have some separatist droid fighters flying around it. There's just so much you can do with this amazing looking build, and thank you, Martin, so much for contributing so many of these awesome looking builds to the community, man.